What's up, guys? Well, you know what? I cajoled Coach Arick Shankles back into another conversation. Coach, I appreciate you joining me.
No, I appreciate you letting me on. It's always fun to talk some wrestling, especially with someone who is as involved in the wrestling scene down south as you are. So I appreciate you letting me on.
I appreciate that. No, I'm super excited about the state tournament. We just got dropped brackets earlier today, so it is a quick turnaround for this. What it's going to probably be without being able, so for the duels, I was able to kind of insert some graphics and that sort of thing. For this one, everybody, it's pretty much just going to be a conversation. And really, Coach and I are going to be doing it kind of on the fly because, yeah, we looked at some sectional results and everything else, but with four classifications and 14 weight classes and everything else, it just kind of is so much information. It's almost information overload. So, we're gonna kind of do the best we can as we kind of walk through this. Coach, you and I didn't talk about this necessarily off camera, and I don't want this to be a hugely long conversation, but I was thinking that maybe we would gather what, maybe like who you think might be the finalists and who's maybe a dark horse or somebody off the map, maybe not a 1-2 seed or something like that. Does that work?
No, that's perfect. Yeah, I'm like, give maybe finals predictions and maybe some bracket busters in here. People
Okay,
that we know, maybe they had a good sectionals and they got seated low, and maybe we can touch on some matchups and stuff like that. Yeah.
that's awesome. That's awesome. And if you see a fantastic first round match or a potentially quarterfinal match, we'll kind of throw that out there as well.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm going to tell everybody right now. I've had many years now in the state of Georgia with 12-person brackets, and I'm not a fan of a 12-man bracket. So I'm going to try to kind of I'm going to hold my tongue a little bit, but the truth of the matter is that I've seen maneuvering. It probably didn't happen this year, but maneuvering around because you can actually in Georgia, they just took the sectional champs and put them on opposite sides and everything else. In the state of Alabama, what is kind of helps in this situation is that they seed it, which is a great thing. But it's almost like your seeded wrestlers, your top four, are being penalized by being a top four seeded wrestler, and that just is wrong.
Yeah. No,
They don't get that opening round match.
yeah, and not every one of them has a bye. The way that Alabama does it, they kind of randomly draw those bottom four wrestlers in. So, you could have a bad sectionals and, maybe get fourth in your sectional and maybe you lost a couple matches you shouldn't have. And now you're sitting here as an unseeded wrestler at the state tournament wrestling the number one seed in the first round. And so yeah, I'm not a fan of 12-man brackets either. I think they need to either be 8-man or 16-man. If you're going to do one, you make sure everybody has a first round matchup.
Yeah, everybody
Um,
starts in the same spot, and that's
Exactly.
the way it
Yeah.
goes.
And honestly, I don't know if I'm a huge fan of seating. When I was in school, we did the cross brackets, and I
Hmm.
know that some coaches played the game, right? There were forfeits, there were it sectionals, there were
Hmm.
things that necessarily aren't ideal in a competitive sense, but that's playing the game. With the seeds, it's a little more computery and not necessarily, you can easily manipulate the computer as well. And I think you also see some of that. And for some kids, it's not necessarily the most fair thing in the world. And for others, you're looking at a really good path to the finals. So,
No, that's true. That's true, and we're going to see that actually during our conversation here. So we're doing 1A-4A. Let's jump right to 106. Your top seed is Thomas Patterson, number two seed Jeremy Lambert from Alexandria, three seeded Miles Bailey from Piedmont, and four is Kellen Mitchell from Oak Grove. To me, it wasn't a surprise actually how the seeds necessarily played out. Obviously, Thomas Patterson is a stud. What do you think we'll see as far as this bracket goes?
yeah, I think Thomas Patterson's the clear favorite. And Kellen Mitchell did have I want to say maybe not the best sectionals. I know Jeremy Lambert actually surprisingly was down to Miles Bailey and pinned Miles Bailey in the finals. And so this is competitive. I do think Patterson, I think he had a major in the finals if I'm not mistaken. So he is the clear favorite. I don't know. at state, you never know who's going to show up and be a little nervous or underperform a little bit, and you can typically see some closer matches with a lot of these top guys. But Patterson's the favorite. I think I'm going to pick Miles Bailey and Patterson to both be in the finals.
Okay.
And then as far as a dark horse goes, you know, I would want to say he's not really much of a dark horse, but Kellen Mitchell at the 4 seed. Somebody who's going to bust some brackets there on maybe in the front side, maybe in the back side, and I think he'll have a very high placement as well.
Very
And then as
cool.
far as best first round match, I'd say Benavidez versus Gadsden, Bayside Academy, seventh grader versus Fultondale's stud, and yeah, that's going to be an awesome first round matchup.
Nice, nice. I love that. Yeah, so I actually like the way we broke that down. I think that as long as your dark horse can be anyone that's not maybe the 1 or 2 seed. So and we'll go from there. All right, so let's jump to 113. Your top seed, again, not a surprise necessarily. Tallahassee, Mason Nelson. Riker Houston had a really good sectional. Little seventh grader out of Alexandria. Carter Driver for Ramburn is your 3 seed. Brady West from Deschler is your 4 seed. A senior, 2 seniors in that top 4 seeds, and a seventh grader who, I mean, I don't know. I kind of lean toward Mason Nelson, but I like seeing the young bucks trying to shake things up.
Yeah, no, Riker Houston reminds me of like a young Jaden New from Alexandria. Somebody who's going to come in and wrestle potentially a senior in the finals, and you never know how that match is going to go. So you have Mason Nelson, obviously the clear favorite. I would be surprised if he doesn't win, but I've seen crazy things happen. I do think Riker Houston will make the finals. I do think that semifinal potential matchup between Houston and Driver will be an excellent matchup. And then my dark horse is Christian Hill. It's somebody who I picked as a dark horse all season, kind of in a way in my rankings, and he's kind of worked his way up and maybe didn't have the best sectional results, but still there at the 5 seed. Somebody that you could see easily being in the semis and maybe working his way third, first, who knows? But
Yeah,
somebody who
yeah. I
definitely has
mean,
the potential to win some big matches.
let's be honest. I mean, last week was a grind, and you don't know who kind of came out a little banged up. There's a little bit of illness going around. You never know how things play out, and then also the other thing is it's a big stage, and even though it for some of these wrestlers it's not the biggest stage that they'll necessarily wrestle on, maybe 1A-4A, but I think of Thompsons and Huntsvilles and those sorts of things. They go to lots of big places and they wrestle some top level competition, but it's still a state tournament, and it's still one of those situations where you're like, this is what I mean. I can go win this tournament or that tournament, and then maybe that tournament's tougher, but this is the tournament that I actually like means something to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you set these goals at the beginning of the season, and we talk about this with our team a lot. Is you have these goals at the beginning of the season. Well, this is when all that work pays off, and some kids step up, and some kids are kind of blinded by those lights. And there's really nothing like wrestling at a state tournament or a national tournament, or all these local tournaments are fun and they're competitive, but there's nothing like stepping out on those state mats or like warming up for the finals and hearing that music that they play. And there's nothing quite like it, and nothing really can prepare you for that first time you walk out there. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just one of those things where you never know what's going to happen. I've seen really crazy things happen at this tournament. So
So I know you were a four-timer. Did you wrestle as an eighth grader, like in that fifth year, or okay? So you
yeah,
had
so
experience before that, right?
well, I didn't wrestle at the tournament, so I wrestled at sectionals and didn't make it.
Okay.
But yeah, so I did have
So
varsity
your
experience,
first
but
time on the state tournament mat was your freshman
yes.
year when you won it.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, the first time being there, 3 tough matches, and yeah, everyone it was a whole new experience.
Nice.
So, yeah, there and what was crazy back then too is you didn't travel as much, so like the teams I was wrestling, I didn't necessarily see them throughout the year.
Hmm.
I didn't wrestle two of the
And there
three kids
wasn't
that I
state
wrestled.
duels, so you weren't
No,
seeing the
so
Southern teams.
I didn't see anybody. I wrestled two kids from the South, and I didn't see either of them before before those matches. So add that on to the whole, nervousness of being a freshman that some of these kids will feel. Yeah, there's nothing like it. It's gonna, but that goes back to your preparation and making sure you're ready.
Nice. All right, so let's jump to 120. We're going to go with your number 1 seed, Noah Raines from St. James. 2 seed is Michael Woodman from Oak Grove. 3 is Hudson Hartzog, Alexandria, freshman. and Ricky Weaver from the Alabama School for the Blind, a junior. Maybe not as clear cut of a favorite in necessarily in this weight. How do you kind of see this one playing out?
Yeah, before sectionals, I was really leaning on Woodman being the favorite, and I think he got fourth at sectionals. So, that kind of throws a wrench into that. I think Noah Raines is now the new favorite, as the seed shows. I mean, he's definitely he had an
Mhm.
excellent sectional tournament, but I actually am looking at Ricky Weaver down here from Alabama School for the Blind, somebody who also had a really good tournament. As somebody who could potentially bust this bracket wide open. I know Jalen Gunn from Deschler versus Gavin Crawford from Asheville is a really, really, really good matchup there too. I think for the finals, I would like. Again, I said Ricky Weaver is the dark horse, but I think Noah Raines versus Hudson Hardsog is probably my pick to be there, and I think Noah Raines will win this bracket.
We'll take the title. All right.
Yeah.
Let's jump to 126 pounds. We have a duo of unbeaten wrestlers here. Mason Ham from White Plains is your top seed. He is a senior. David Hill from Oak Grove is your two seed. He's 47-0. I mean, I want to go ahead and throw out Justin Thomas. Reeltown is your three seed. Jonathan Santos from Alexandria is your four seed. It does kind of look like the top two seeds should kind of proceed their way to the finals. And for everybody who's watching this, if you look back, the seeding they do a pretty good job of figuring out one versus twos happen a lot of times. So us picking somebody who's not a one and a two is more of a surprise than based upon past year's experiences. Anyway, I am surprised though that David Hill's not the one seed and Ham's a two seed, simply because I've watched Hill wrestle like outside the state of Alabama, like against other kids from other states. So I know the level of competition. That's not to take anything away from Mason Ham. I know how good David Hill is.
Yeah, and David Hill, in my opinion, and this goes back to what we were talking about, the criteria and being able to manipulate it. They're both state champs, so it goes back down to that seed criteria, and I don't know how they figured it up. And I don't think it necessarily
It
matters. I
doesn't
mean,
really probably matter here.
the only person it probably matters for is Justin Thomas, who
Right.
only lost to David Hill at like I think 8-1, or it was a decent. I'm not saying that's a close match, but when you're talking about somebody at the level of David Hill, that is a decently close match. So if you're Justin Thomas, that it probably is a little disheartening to be the
Well, and
three
you'd like
there,
to get
but
your shot at the other guy, you know?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think both of these guys will make their way to the finals. I think David Hill is the favorite, but I think this should be an excellent matchup. Yeah, Justin Thomas, I feel for him. He's obviously very good. I actually have two bracket busters in this one.
Okay.
Kel Fulmer for Weaver, I think is my first bracket buster at the 7 seed, and then the 6 seed, Benjamin Santee. Believe he was a state runner-up last year, multiple time placer at the 6 seed. So and they're all on the same side. So that'll be an excellent. That bottom half of the bracket is very brutal, very very tough. So I mean, obviously
So
David
you and I
Hill's
are
the.
sitting in the stands. We're paying attention to a portion of that bracket. We're watching the bottom half.
Oh yeah, we're very locked in on that bottom half of the bracket, especially starting with the quarters. I think you're
Nice.
really really tuned in.
All right, so let's jump to 132, where your top seed is Chris Souls from Cherokee County, a senior. Two seed is Drake Wood from Reeltown. Three is Harry Bush from Beulah. And number four is Hayden Heiss from Weaver. You got a couple freshmen in there, a sophomore in there. You also have some good, talented wrestlers also below those top four. I didn't look at a ton of information, but I did look at Curtis Souls, and I mean, he's got a really solid record. He's wrestled some really good competition. Um, is he the favorite, or do you have a different one?
I actually like Drake Wood.
Okay.
In this one, I think it'll be a very entertaining match. I think it's interesting matchup between a freshman and a senior potentially. Not to say Harry Grant is out of that conversation either, or Aiden Sumner for Oak Grove. Those are also really good wrestlers there. But again, we're going back to they both won their section. I think that Drake Wood, even though he's younger, might stylistically match up with Curtis Souls really well. So I'm interested to see that one. I think you could argue Souls is the favorite, being the older guy, being the returning, I think he was a state runner-up, I believe, last year.
Placer, definitely, yeah.
Placer for sure. So, yeah, this will be an interesting bracket. I don't know if there's a clear-cut favorite between those two, maybe even Harry Grant in there.
Nice.
And then I think as far as bracket buster, Ben Swindle from Bayside Academy is somebody to look for at the 5 seed.
Nice, nice. Yeah. All right. So let's jump to 138 pounds. Some names that you actually know pretty well, I would think. Brody Hayes, T.R. Miller, senior, 37 and 0. I think a defending state champ. Is that right?
I believe so,
Um,
yes.
Nathan Cox, who up your neck of the woods, Madison County, comes in 49 and 2. There's also a really tough Dalton Fink there as a 3 seed, Jacoby Foster, the 4 seed. And Roman McWilliams is the 5 seed, Braylon Corley down at the 7 seed from St. James. I mean, there's a lot of names actually at this weight, but Hayes is the defending state champ.
Yeah, Hayes is the defending state champ, but I'll tell you what, Nathan Cox was super impressive this weekend at sectionals. Had a great run, and he's somebody who's also been in these stages and been in these matches. And I'm actually going to lean Nathan Cox to upset the defending state champ here. I think he looked really good, and if he wrestles like that, I could easily see him upsetting Brody Hayes. Now, given I am biased because I only saw the north section, I didn't see how good Brody Hayes looked, but
Right?
I'm gonna lean there. I think Roman McWilliams is your bracket buster here. He did already have a loss, I think, to Brody Hayes earlier in this year, if I'm not
Don't know
mistaken.
off
I
the top
think
of my
that's the
head.
one we said, but I think that's one of his two losses. But yeah, I think this is an interesting weight. I think that Hayes is the favorite. I mean, if you're a betting man, then I think he would be the safe pick. But I'm gonna go with the more spicy pick. Pick Nathan Cox.
The spicy pick. I love that. All right. I'm gonna look that up real quick so I can tell you. McWilliams, what I have down is a loss, two losses to Brody Hayes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they were
So there you go.
decently close matches, though, I believe, correct?
Well,
Like,
one was a close match, one was a tech fall.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
So there you go. All right, so let's jump to 144 pounds. Your top seed is Julian Lowe from St. John Paul II. Avery Brantley from Tallahassee is your 2 seed. Michael Yafondo, 3 seed, and Joseph Morris from Alabama School of Cyber Technology and Engineering, which is your neck of the woods as well, right?
it is. Yeah. That's a newer program.
Newer school, yeah, is the 4 seed. I've watched both Lowe and Brantley wrestle. I watched them both at the state duels wrestle. I haven't seen some of the others in necessarily further down wrestle. Kind of give me the lay of land of what we're looking at here at 44.
Julian Lowe returning to state runner-up. Avery Brantley, state placer. I believe he got third in 5A, but actually, Avery Brantley had a concussion. I think he's out of
Oh,
this
is that
bracket.
right?
I think I saw him post directly to his Facebook that he was out. So I believe if he is out, Michael Yafundo is the defending state champ as well in this weight. And so I do think that Julian Lowe is the favorite. I think he has jumped levels. I think I mentioned this last time we've talked about him, and he is just a phenomenal wrestler, somebody who I'm really, really high on. I think he could compete at the next level if he wanted to, and he's put in just a lot of work in the offseason. So I do think he would win that rematch with Yafundo. Um, and yeah, it sucks that Avery Brantley's out because I think he would
Yeah,
he would
I
also
did.
be.
I didn't know that. I know it was a DQ at sectionals. Was
I I don't know if
did
it,
it
I
occur
don't know
there? Yeah, we
exactly.
don't know.
Not, yeah, unsure of that one, but I do know he posted it on his Facebook. And as far as first round matchups, Joseph Morris from the Cybertech school, and then actually North Sand Mountain. Shout out Brett Clark, my old teammate. He has a kid there, so I'm gonna be watching that match just for him.
Nice. I noticed that. We were talking about it when we did duels about these new schools kind of making their way and everything else. And as I was looking through some of these, I noticed, Alabama School of Cyber Technology. They've had a couple kids in the past,
Hmm.
but North Sound Sand Mountain has, a few kids, and I just love to see new programs kind of pop up and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think Coosa Christian had somebody that made their way in. I
Yeah,
think in the
maybe
next class you have Shoals
Shoals
Christian, maybe.
Christian, maybe
Yeah,
too.
there's just programs popping up everywhere. It's awesome.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, so we jumped to 150 pounds, and Your top seed is Land Bell, obviously absolute hammer. Not to take away from your other group, other individuals in this weight. Ethan Jones is your 2 seed. Gianluca Torres is your 3 seed. Vice is your 4 seed from Wilson. Um, but it's hard for me to look at anybody but Land Bell. I mean, honestly.
Yeah, it's hard for me to pick against somebody who I am very strongly feeling like he will win, and probably maybe bonus his way through this weight. So, that, not to disrespect anybody else, but yeah, he's definitely the clear favorite. Torres versus Jones was, I believe, well, I don't know if they wrestled. I know Torres beat Vise, I think, from Wilson this past weekend. But yeah, really the bottom half of the bracket is awesome. I think that first round matchup between Ethan Jones and Miles Zakowski is going to be a really, really good match. Zakowski's somebody who I believe was a state placer or definitely a state qualifier last year, and I've had his name in the rankings, in and out quite some time. So that'll be an awesome matchup. Joshua Vise, I think at the 4 is my bracket buster. Somebody from Wilson, another program that's, we talked
Mhm.
about. And he looked really, really competitive this week. He's only a sophomore too, so I'm interested to see how he develops too. But yeah, this is a good bracket, but Land Bell, clear favorite.
So I just looked it up. I didn't see a Jones versus Torres match, so I don't know that it doesn't mean that all of my matches are updated and
Yeah,
everything
maybe I'm
else,
thinking he matched up with somebody else from
but
Weber.
it didn't pop up when I pulled it up. So
Okay.
all right, moving to 157 pounds, your top seed is Austin Mayfield. Mayfield is again another real hammer, in 1A-4A at 157. Two is Andrew Young. Wesley Beebe from White Plains is your 3 seed. Brady Adams from Tallahassee is your 4 seed. Um, Kind of not. I wouldn't say surprised by kind of seeing where everybody kind of falls there. What do you think?
Yeah, Austin Mayfield again, clear favorite, 39 and 0, defending state champ. Andrew Young will be very competitive, I believe, with Mayfield. I want to say, was he a state champ, state runner up last year? He was one of those two. Brady Adams, somebody else is super competitive. Hunter Bagley, always in the rankings from Piedmont. So this is a fun weight, but again, it's kind of like the last weight where you have this clear favorite and everybody else is trying to fight their way, either to the semis or to the finals if you're on the lower half. So
Well, and I believe Mayfield pinned Young in early January.
yeah, yeah,
So, I mean, that should just give everybody kind of a sense. It doesn't mean that that's going to be the conclusion of the next time they wrestle. I'm just saying that
yes,
past performance,
yeah.
it's kind of informed.
And I've said this before in my rankings personally, like I don't weigh pins as heavily as some others do because you never really know how that match was going, like what the situation was. So unless I see the match, it's you never really know. And it's again, we've talked about it's the state finals potentially. I mean,
Yeah. Who
anything
knows
can
what's going to
happen.
happen?
Yeah, anything
Yeah.
can happen. So
All right, jumping to 165 pounds. We have another Tallahassee kid who is in the top 4. This one at number 1, Tremel McCoy. Number 2 is Dylan Brown. 3 is Brody Frederick from Oak Grove. 4 is Hunter Abercrombie from West End, who I think had a heck of a sectional and actually ran all the way to the sectional title, correct?
I believe he pinned his way through, or definitely won. Yeah, he is. Honestly, I think I'm gonna pick the 4 seed to win the bracket. Hunter Abercrombie looked really good. Tremel McCoy, the clear favorite, definitely the easy pick there. And somebody who has consistently been 1 or 2 in the rankings all year. Hunter Abercrombie, the scary pick, but that's what I like picking those guys. And then you got
Well,
Brody
and
Frederick.
having a hot hand, right? I mean, there's
Yeah,
something to be said for that.
there momentum in wrestling is real, just like in other sports. And yeah, you had a good weekend. You're feeling good going into it. You did get the 4 seed, maybe not the best, but if you continue to wrestle really, really good, you never know.
I think you look at
Um,
it and say I could beat anybody.
yeah, and I mean he beat Dylan Brown, the two
The
seed
two
down there,
seed.
so you got to
Yeah.
feel confident. But yeah, Brody Frederick versus Dylan Brown potential semifinals would be amazing. But don't count out Caleb Tidwell down there at the 6 senior from Piedmont, somebody who I think could be a bracket buster right here.
Nice. All right. Jumping to 175. if you've been around some 1A, 4A wrestling in the state of Alabama, you know these names. This is not a surprise. Tyler Ebner from Asheville, senior Pruitt Connor from St. James, senior Aiden Richardson. There's a number of different Richardsons from Dora. Jalen Fells comes in as a 4 seed from Fultondale. Connor is, I think, unbeaten on the year. It won the South. Ebner has one loss, won the North, and his one loss came back in early December to Fells, who he could get in the semifinals.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's a scary matchup, potentially for Ebner. He is obviously, I think he's the defending state champ in this weight. But yeah, that's if you're Ebner, you were really hoping Fells was probably that 3 seed where Richardson is. But Pruitt Connor, he did beat Richardson, I believe. It was close to a major at sectionals, and I think he is the favorite in this weight. He is undefeated. But it will be interesting. Ebner, state champ versus Fells in the semis could be another upset. And there's a lot of names in this weight that you noticed. Joseph Hooks from Tallahassee,
right.
Antoine Pitts from Thomasville, Caden Thornton, Weaver, Carter Copeland. I mean, these are all names that are in the rankings or have been in the rankings at some point. So it's hard to pick a dark horse because I think they're all really competitive.
Nice. All right. Let's jump to 190, where again, I'm not sure of the one and the two. I don't think it really matters. Again, one of those situations, both are undefeated. Leighton Pohl, who won the North from New Hope, Zachary Crossway, I think that's how you say his name, from
I think so.
Tallahassee, who is, I mean, 51-0. I mean, it's just, or at least that's what I have down. I don't know if that's what it says in the bracket. Charles Chapel, Montgomery Catholic is your 3 seed, Zachary Hooks from Weaver being your 4 seed. But again, I'm not sure it matters. It looks like those two are the two best at the weight. But it might matter to the 3 seed, but I mean, again, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it gets lost in the weeds, right? When you have two undefeated wrestlers that are on a collision course for the finals here, it kind of, I hate to downplay everybody else but in this bracket, but having two undefeated wrestlers in the same bracket, it means it's going to be super hard to reach the finals. Not impossible, but super difficult. Um, I think this is a really, really interesting matchup. This might be one of the most anticipated 1 through 4A finals in a long time because you got to remember Crossweight and Tallahassee is coming down
From
from,
Wetumpka, right?
yeah, and he's from Wetumpka, but coming down
Oh yeah,
from
down from
that,
5A.
yeah, from 5A as well. So he's actually a 6A wrestler going all the way to 1 through 4A.
Yeah, because
And I
was it
believe he,
Wetumpka his freshman year? Is that right?
I don't know if he was at Wetumpka. That was McWilliams. I believe Crossweight was at Wetumpka last year and transferred this year.
Okay, all right, all right.
If I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, so somebody can correct us in the comments or whatever. But yeah, so I believe Crossway is a returning 6A placer. I think he got third. I don't believe he was a finalist. I could be wrong.
Don't remember off the top of my head.
But Leighton Pohl defending 1 through 4A state champ. This is an interesting matchup. I know a lot of people that are close with me say Leighton Pohl should be the favorite. But the 6A former 6A head coach in me thinks that Crossway maybe has an edge here. So we'll see. I think this. I'm not gonna make a prediction on this one because I'm gonna make people mad. So I'll leave that one up to you guys. But I will pick a dark horse, and the dark horse is Christopher Weaver from Alabama School for the Blind. I think he's somebody who could easily upset some people, find his way into a semifinals match or a third place match.
All right, I love it. Let's jump to 215, where your top seed is Noah Breland from Bayside Academy. 2 seed is Nolan Adeo. Tallahassee 3, Isaac Mazzano. And 4 is Carter Doherty. Again, I love to see Escambia County represented, North Sand Mountain, Etowah. If you're from Georgia, you know Etowah High School because it's a big school over here. Obviously, a small school, 1A, 4A school over in the state of Alabama, but I think a pretty new program. So for me, looking at this, Brady Thrash coming in as the 5 seed from Asheville, has been really pretty good all season. Um, you know, everybody I think has a loss. So it's not as if I mean, is this kind of more of an up in the air, or do you see a clear favorite?
Yeah, I mean, so Brady Thrash does lose to Dean Boxley at sectionals, and
right?
Boxley wins sectionals, and then you're looking at this bracket, and Boxley's
Is
the
the
sixth
six?
seed
I
as a
know,
sectional winner, and so this goes back to what we were saying earlier with the seeding criteria. Sometimes it doesn't make sense,
right?
you know. Sometimes you can beat a guy at sectionals and still be seated
Below
below
him,
them, right below them, which doesn't make sense to me either. But I think somebody probably should have challenged that one. But yeah, so this bracket, interesting. Breland did win the South, but
he
seeing
did.
Brady thrash in the semis could be potentially not well. And then you have Bryson Bowman right there as well in the quarters. I mean, just a brutal path for the one seed here. Nolan Addado from Tallahassee, Cameron Richardson, my dark horse here from Dora. Um, Down there as well. So this is a super competitive weight. I don't really know. If I had to pick two finalists, I'd probably go Cameron Richardson or Dean Boxley versus Brady Thrash. But I could easily be wrong. Everybody has a loss. I thought going in, Thrash was my one seed. He was my favorite on my rankings, and then he gets upset in the semis and sectionals, and now I'm like, oh, I don't know anymore. So it makes it
Right,
interesting.
right. Well, I mean, that's actually kind of why people say, so and so is going to win in high school wrestling. And I'm like, dude, man, like, I mean, maybe I feel that way a bit about Gable Stevenson, from Minnesota,
Yeah.
Olympic champion. Like, I could put money down on him or like feel that confident. But, but I mean, it's just so many things happen, and you just don't know what's going to happen. And this is a perfect example. Like I thought we had it kind of figured out, and then next thing you know, it kind of goes different direction. Who comes in? Who's wrestling hot? Who's feeling good? Maybe they're the ones who like make a march.
Yeah, I mean Dean Boxley, you just came off of a sectional win, and now you're the sixth seed, and you're poised to make another run. I mean, his path is pretty decent. I would think if I was the sixth, if you are the sixth seed, maybe that's why you didn't argue it, because maybe your path is a little better right
There you
there.
go. Actually, that might be a really good point. All right, so let's jump to the final weight class in 1A-4A to 285. Your top seed is Devin Bragg of Reeltown. Brandon Joliffe from Weaver is your two seed. Zayden Benefield, Ranburn is your three seed. Hudson Ingolzabi from White Plains. I don't know why I'm reading these because I slaughter names all the time. Um, but again, as I go through this list, and I'm impressed, right? I'm impressed with the different individuals that are seated 1 through 4. But I look at a Jude Rogers who is seated 5. I watched him wrestle and get the win in at state duels. I see Silas McCarthy down there as the ninth.
Oh man,
I'm
he's
just
not
looking at this
seeded.
going,
Whew.
this could go again. This is another one that could go lots of different directions.
Yeah, no, this is a fantastic weight. That first match, that very first match, is Silas McCarthy, someone who was 1 point away from being a state finalist last year. He medically forfeited out of sectionals, um, and so he's in the bracket now, and he has a sectional champ first match. That is a really good matchup right there. Easily my favorite matchup. Silas McCarthy is my dark horse as well. But a lot of good names here. Zayden Benefield only lost to Devin Bragg 9-8. Brandon Joliffe did win the North. This is a fantastic field. I think we'll see. Um, I honestly want to say Silas McCarthy versus Benefield in the finals, and I think that Silas McCarthy could win as an unseeded wrestler. He is a fantastic wrestler. I could easily be biting my words on that one, but yeah, somebody who has been in the rankings as of last year when he really has brought that resurgence of Brooks wrestling to everybody. He just
Right.
brought it to the forefront, kind of led the way there, and somebody who I'm really high on as well. So this will be a great weight, super fun, and I'm super excited for this one.
All right, as we wrap up 1A through 4A, as I look down the list, I'm pretty impressed with Tallahassee. I was impressed with them at duels. I can see them kind of handling 1A through 4A as far as the team race goes. Obviously, you've got other teams in the mix, Oak Grove, Weaver, Alexandria, especially down low with some of their weights and different things like that. Um, are you agreeing with me as far as Tallahassee goes, or do you have a different take?
I mean, it's Tallahassee. It's if you I mean, I literally looked at the scores from the bracket, and when you first popped it up, it was they were leading by like 150, and I was like, whoa.
Yeah,
I mean, this is a whole different level of team this year. Arguably will go down, I think, if they have another good tournament as one of, if not the best 1 through 4A team of all time. And that's really saying something because
that
there
is
have been
saying
some
something.
fantastic teams, especially like, you think about all the Weaver teams, and how many state title runs they've had. And yeah, no, this team is legit. They're
They
very,
are.
very good.
They are. We said it in the duel when we were talking about the duels. I'd love to see them actually in the brackets with the 5A, 6A teams and kind
I
of
they would
watching them
probably be the
battle.
favorite. They'd probably be the favorite at 5A for sure.
Yeah. All right, man. I appreciate you jumping on through 1A, 4A with me. And you know what, guys? We'll see how it plays out. Best of luck to everybody. That's actually the whole point of this is that we're just talking about kind of what we see. But you know what? At the end of the day, it's really up to you to go out and compete, do the best you can. And you know what? I would say soak in the moment. Like enjoy being there, enjoy kind of, the opportunity to compete at that level and go out and wrestle your best.
Yeah, no, go out and compete hard, and hopefully, if you compete hard for 6 minutes at a time, good things happen to you. And
Absolutely.
there's nothing like it. Enjoy the moment because you can't go back and do it again. So
No, I know that all too well.
yeah, so
All right, coach. I'll see you when we do 5A. Cool.
all right, see
All
ya.
right, man.